Everything looks good there. Why is it not? Oh, here we go. We're popping up. Let's just adjust this for 2 seconds. Boom. I think we're good. Cool. All right. Today we are going to dive deep into probably my favorite topic and the topic that got me started in all of this. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20. We're going to be talking about how to treat our bodies like the temple God designed it to be. There is going to be 5 fun areas of focus that we're going to be exploring and really connecting the physical and spiritual well-being. And trust me, once I really focused, how do I want to say this? Once I looked into each of these areas and had a plan, God's plan for them, and started implementing it, the difference I felt daily was noticeable. That undersells that a lot. By looking into these 5 areas and focusing on them and implementing strategies to better myself in them, I have truly created a discipline and a life that I've created discipline. I've created a life. I don't know how that sounds. How do I want to say that? By implementing these 5 key strategies, I was really able to uncover what physically was holding me back from taking the next step in becoming the man of God created me to be. I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. So, with all that said, grab your Bible, get comfy, and let's jump into what the 5 healthy habits that are straight from the Bible that will help us treat our bodies like the temple God designed it to be. Dear God, thank you so much for joining us today, for being here with us and giving us this body that you gave us. Help us to learn about you, live for you, and treat our bodies like the temple that you created to be, so that we can live the life that you created us to live. And in your name, amen. Perfect. All right. 1 Corinthians 6, 19 through 20. So as we've kind of discussed in prior videos, that when reading the Bible, it is important to know a handful of things prior to reading, especially a main text like we're going to talk to. So first off, who's the author of 1 Corinthians? Paul. Paul is writing to the city of Corinthia. And basically, the city of Corinthia, how does it say? Topic. See the information. Okay, so basically Paul is writing to the city of Corinthia, which is, as my little study Bible is telling me, it has a population of 250,000 people. And oh, wow. Okay. As you read on, it gets a little more exciting. So they have 250,000 free people and 400,000 slaves. So almost double the amount. So 1/3 is free people, 2/3 are going to be slaves. So he is writing them because he is concerned about some, I like how that says. Okay. Okay. So Paul is writing to the city of Corinthia, which is at that time not really doing too well. 1/3 of their population is free, and the other 2/3 are slaves. So right there, we can get behind that. Maybe that's not the best spot, and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis isn't really just. The second thing is this city was known for having multiple temples to multiple different entities and gods. The most kind of well-known or infamous one is Aphrodite, the goddess of love, that they had a whole setup and temple set up to her, which leads to a city of very open and loose morals. Is probably the nicest way to put that, if you get my gist. And to be honest, very similar to what today's atmosphere is in our world. So that is actually, as we've been doing this more and often, what's been interesting is the world that we are in is getting more and more like the world of Jesus, which is good, but troubling at the same time, because we have the answers, but we then have to still deal with the problems. But I digress. So 1 Corinthians 6, 19 through 20, Paul is writing them, and what is interesting about this verse, which people so often focus purely on the physical body of it, it is written in a section that Paul is really discussing sexual immoralities and stuff like that. So, where does it start? Right. 19 through 9. Where's that? Okay. I'm actually going to read 18 because I think that sets it up pretty well for everything that we're talking about. So, 18 says, "Flee from sexual immoralities. All other sins a man commits are outside his body. But if you sin sexually, sin against your own body. But he who sins sexually sins against his own body. Do you not know that your body is a temple for the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body." There is two key things before we get into the steps that I have found really improve our bodies and our temple that I really want to focus on in this verse. The first is, and honestly, there was only really one thing I wanted to focus on, was how sexual sin can play a big part in, no, I don't want to talk about that. Well, that's important, but that's not really the gist of it. In reading it right now, the part that stood out to me is bought with a price, because these people were slave owners. So to say to them that your body was bought for a price speaks directly to them in the language they understand. So that's really kind of that is one of those things that you only really can grasp if you do the 2 to 3 second research prior to who is writing this, who are they writing it to, and why are they writing this verse or this letter to them about. So it's just interesting to know that the Corinthians were huge slave owners, and Paul talks to them using their terms, which is really cool and speaks to, once again, how amazing and interesting the Bible really is. So with that said, the other thing I really wanted to focus on is it talks about honoring God with our body. And there's 5 ways I think we can truly do that. And here they are. So the first one is going to be through what we actually digest, we put into our body, our nutrition and our diet. 1 Corinthians 10:31 tells us, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. The easiest way I think is as simple as praising God, praying before a meal, giving thanks for what you have been blessed with to eat, and goes as far depth into really reading the Bible and seeing the diet plan that God has laid out for you. I've got a video on this channel already that talks about the Bible diet and what it is, but generally, when it comes to diet and nutrition, if you want to improve that area of your life, and with more than, probably by now it's over 60% of the United States being overweight, if not obese, there is 4 main categories that you should be focusing on. Your water consumption. So first and foremost, Genesis 1:2 tells us that the world was just water at creation. Jesus talks about how he is the water of life. I'm butchering that. Living water. He's living water. And throughout the Bible, the water into wine was one of the first miracles. There's multiple spots throughout the Bible where water is a key component. Water should be what we are hydrating ourselves with majority of the time. I cannot tell you how many clients, just by changing their Starbucks order, they see a difference in their day after a couple of days. By changing to different beverages and whatnot, how getting rid of carbonated soda, how that can affect somebody. Did you know that if you have a Coca-Cola, a can of Coca-Cola every day, and you get rid of that, in a year, you would lose 20 pounds? So, hydration, drinking water, that's key. The second is going to be seed-bearing plants. It is exactly what God told Adam and Eve to eat when they were in the garden, before he even got into not eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He told them to eat seed-bearing plants. I classify that as fruits, vegetables, beans, and nuts, and that should be the foundation of your diet. And just like your grandma has said, your mom has said, you need to eat more fruits and vegetables. And that is pretty much the foundation of what your diet should be. With that said, God later on, once Noah and the flood happened, goes on to tell Noah that he can start eating animals. These animals are classified as clean animals within the Bible. God separates and distinguishes between types of animals that we should eat and what we shouldn't eat. So you would want to eat what I call clean meat from animals that are classified as clean via the Bible. The easiest way to do that is, if it is a land animal, something with 4 legs that walks around, it needs to eat cud, so eat grass, and have a split hoof. It needs to have both of those. If it is an animal of the sea, it needs to have scales and fins. Once again, both of those. And when it comes to animals of the air, there's just a list of animals that you shouldn't eat. And for the most part, there's nothing on that list that jumps out as a, hey, try not to eat a bald eagle or an owl, because that's on the list, is not to eat an owl. So yeah, that's what you want to do in those. But then on top of those three things, so what you're drinking, your fruits and vegetables, and your meat, a huge spiritual discipline that I think often gets overlooked is fasting. And it is very trendy right now in the fitness industry, intermittent fasting. And don't get me wrong, I love to intermittent fast. I think it is a great way to schedule your eating and live like that. But I don't think as much people are really connecting it to their spiritual well-being as much as they should. And I highly suggest and encourage you to, once again, I've got videos on this that talk way more in depth about fasting, but do a one-day fast and see how God speaks to you during that time. I also, in implementing intermittent fasting, the best way I can kind of combine intermittent fasting with your spiritual well-being is if you just don't eat your breakfast, but join this Bible study, join this time, and instead of eating breakfast, have a moment where you are diving deep into the Bible and coming to a deeper relationship with God, and then not eating until lunchtime. I think that is where you can really take intermittent fasting and connect it to your well-being as well. Cool. So that's the nutrition and diet part of it. With that said, those are silly questions. I wrote questions to ask you guys, and I guess this one's a good one. So besides those four areas of diet, is there a way that you also improve your eating habits by glorifying God? I would love to know. So put those comments in. Put those answers in the comments down below. The second is going to be by physical exercise, by working our body more, by getting up and using it. If you don't use it, you lose it. 1 Timothy 4:8 tells us, for physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise to both the present life and the life to come. What that's really telling us is, well, the first part of it is physical training has some good value. We can all agree on that. In today's society, I think that we don't put enough value on our physical training, but even more important, we don't put nearly as much emphasis on our godliness training as we should. So what this verse is really telling us is, yes, you should be physically training more, working out, lifting weights, going on a walk. This doesn't mean that you are going to become a pro bodybuilder. I just think this verse encourages us to not sit around and be lazy and to actually have some sort of physical training element to our life. But on top of that, it is more important to focus on your spiritual well-being and focusing on what I'll call your godliness training. That is going to be double as important because, like the verse says, it has benefits for both your present life and your life to come. So with that said, I have physical training all up and down this channel as well, and will help out any way I can with that. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. But on top of that, I would love to know, what is the thing that you do? Well, let me tell you the story. So basically, when I work out, I purposely now, when I work out, will do one of two things. I'm only listening to worship music, or I am listening to some sort of sermon or book on tape that is like I combine my physical training and my spiritual training at the same time. I find it motivates me more. In moments of physical training, I am more focused because there's less distractions around me because I'm focusing on moving a certain thing, moving a weight at that certain time. So that's exciting. And I want to encourage you, kind of like the other day when I posted about the Bible and how to read it, it's you've got to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. And that's what I think both in physical training and I like the term godliness training. It is a step, then a jog, then a run. And within Project Kingdom Gladiator, I make it very easy for that progression to get better and better physical training wise by the workouts that you are to do. And I encourage you to find something that you enjoy. It might not be going to the gym. It could be just hiking. I've got people in my life that love to hike. I've got friends that like to go golfing. That just in doing physical, if you do step one, really cleaning up your nutrition and diet, and then add some sort of element of just not for an, I'm going to go out on a limb and say if you, there's 7 days in a week. I don't want to even say, so if you for 4 hours a week, so an hour more than every other day, that's not really a good way. But if you for 4 hours a week, so that could be one day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then do something Friday, whatever works for you. If you were to do an hour 4 times a week, eat how I just laid out in the nutrition and diet part, I don't know, you would drastically see a difference in your life physically, mentally, and spiritually. Cool. So that's physical training. What do you like? How do you like to work out? Is there something that you do that really connects the physical training with the godliness training? I would love to know that as well. Like I said, I want this to be a conversation between us and going from there. And I'm trying to see. Cool. Okay. So we're going to put that over there. Back to this. Number 3 is going to be rest and sleep. Psalms 127:2 reads, "In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves." One of the questions I get asked the most is, what supplement should I take? Is it this magic pill? Is it that magic powder? I get asked all the time about supplements. If you are not getting a good 7 hours or more, if you are not getting more than 7 hours of sleep a night, there is nothing a supplement is going to do for you. Sleep is hands down the greatest, basically, performance enhancing drug there is. If you are not getting enough sleep, you're going to feel it the next day. If you get too much sleep, you're going to feel it the next day. Sleep is, I always use this example. It's when you're sick, it's never 2 o'clock in the afternoon that you're all of a sudden like, oh, I feel good. It is always when you wake up the morning after you didn't feel good because you slept. Your body does so much while you sleep that getting rest and sleep and having more sleep is essential to your physical well-being. On top of that, I think sleep helps your physical well-being, where rest helps your mental and spiritual well-being. We are a society that is not of rest. You are always on your phone. You are always trying to do something. It is important to have moments of rest, moments of silence, moments of thought where you can communicate with God and figure out the plan that He wants for you. So, sleep and rest. This is just a friendly reminder to focus on them, the importance of them, and so here, I'll give you some tips for sleep. To sleep better, a cold room is always going to be better than a hot room. I cannot tell you also, so number 2 would be getting rid of your phone. It sounds silly, but at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, don't look at your phone before you go to bed. And I also would take it one step further and get your phone out of your bedroom. This is not some crazy, the waves are getting into your brain and doing stuff. I think the waves are already in your brain, but from a stress component of always having phantom vibrations of your phone or thinking you have notifications. By moving your phone into a different room, you don't have that sensation, that urge, the phantom, hey, something's going on happening while you sleep. So I would not look at your phone for an hour before you go to bed, and then I would also take your phone and put it in a different room. That might be just your bathroom next door. Like, I don't care where it is, but just don't put it next to your head, because it will subconsciously help you sleep better. Last but not least, whenever there is a new product, I always tend to be the last to jump on it because I think it's all, I tend to lean on the gimmick side of most things. This one thing my wife got me as I believe it was a birthday gift, has changed my sleep. A weighted blanket. Find one, get one, try it out. It has drastically changed how I sleep. It is like, the best way I can describe it is every time I go to sleep now, it's like I'm being hugged to sleep in a comfortable way, not in like a weird clingy, like claustrophobic way. It is just, it sounds silly, but it honestly, I lay there now on my back, and I'm a side sleeper. So how I fall asleep is I lay on my back, I've got my weighted blanket on my chest, and I have a moment of rest with God. And I breathe, I just inhale, exhale through my nose. And it feels just, it's nice to have that pressure. It feels like God has just put his hand on me and just is like, everything's going to be okay. So with that said, try a weighted blanket. Drastically changed my sleep. Like, I now sleep through the night. I used to wake up multiple times in the night. I used to constantly wake up at 2 o'clock and not be able to fall back asleep. It has solidified my sleeping. I always had decent sleep, like I could fall asleep fast, but it has made it so I don't wake up as many times during the night, and I sleep later into the morning. Like, I used to just wake up at 3 every morning, 2, 3, 4 o'clock and be good to go. Now it's 5 o'clock and but I'm still energized, but 5 o'clock I wake up and I'm good to go. So it has drastically improved my sleep. So those would be the 3 things I would focus on physically when it comes to sleep. Temperature of the room, getting rid of your phone, and then add a weighted blanket. Life-changing. Life-changing. So that is there. All right, now we're going to get into kind of the more, how do I want to word this? We're going to get into a more deeper topic. The 4th thing to help us treat our bodies like it is the temple God created to be is to avoid substance abuse. Ephesians 5:18 reads, "Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. I think it is, I want to kind of put if you are a Christian YouTuber, you have to have a should Christian drink video. I'm going to put my flag down right now and say, I think biblically speaking, it is okay to have a alcoholic beverage. I think there is a giant but, there's a giant asterisk, there is a giant conversation that needs to be had where there's a verse in the Bible and it says, what is it? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Bible verse. All right, so with that said, I think Christians can drink alcohol, but there's 2 points that I want to make when it comes to alcohol. And no, I want to just stick with alcohol right now because there's other things that I think substances we are abusing that we need to have a conversation about. So when it comes to alcohol, as a Christian, yes, I believe you can drink alcohol. Throughout the Bible, majority of the time, when alcohol is brought up, it is directly related to drunkenness, and that it is more important to be aware of how much you have drank and the debauchery and what you are doing from there than it is the actual substance itself, I believe. The second and last key takeaway, I personally have really hindered, by no means was I a drinker, but I was a drinker. I would have 2 a month, Saturday night, cocktails with friends. I wasn't not a drinker, but by no means was I couldn't tell you the last time I got drunk. With that said, I was reading the Bible like I always do, and I am personally trying to simplify my life, and there's just so much going on that I find in simplifying things and removing a lot of stuff. It helps me personally. And this verse really stuck with me and is kind of a verse that I use often in lots of aspects of my life. But it is 1 Corinthians 6:12. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. What I read that as, yeah, we can drink alcohol, but is it really beneficial? And that's where I personally have come that I just don't drink that much. I don't drink really ever. So I would encourage you to take a look at your life, and just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And then on top of it, is it mastering your life? I think that this is where a lot of other substances come into play. Can you smoke pot? Nowhere in the Bible does it talk about it. We're talking about treating your body like a temple. Does that treat your body like a temple? That's a personal opinion you are going to have to come up with. But I then default to the verse we just went over. Just because you can do anything, is it really beneficial? Let alone, is it mastering you? Is it now something that you crave, are addicted to? Those are the components I think once again, the Bible doesn't often, well, the Bible does. I think the Bible really speaks to us more about thinking through things instead of just blatantly telling us yes and no to things. So substances, drinking, smoking, sugar consumption, caffeine addiction. That I've yet to look this up, but I will be researching soon. I want to know the connection between increasing caffeine and increase of weight, because I think there is a correlation, but at the same time, a lot of your Starbucks drinks or Pete's or wherever you go, a lot of those drinks have more sugar in them than a can of soda. So is it the caffeine or is it the sugar? I'll look into that later. But avoiding substance areas, and there is hundreds of resources out there. If you have a substance abuse issue that you really need to address, there are people that help you. Unfortunately, I am not that person. It would be ignorant of me to try and help you in that area. So my encouragement to you is to look at your life and see if these areas that we just kind of discussed, alcohol, weed, hard drugs, I guess you could add too, caffeine, sugar, if they are actually benefiting you, and have they actually mastered you and you're addicted to them. The fifth and final component of treating your body like a temple is going to be your emotional and mental health, your emotional and mental well-being. Philippians 4:8 tells us, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." This has been the component of treating my body like a temple that in the last year I have had the hardest time with. And if 2020 hasn't made it more difficult for you, it feels like every day there's something else that makes emotional and mental health harder. I am not a therapist. I've been to therapy, and the one thing that I took away from therapy that really helped me is catching the moments that I am doing things in my head that I know I shouldn't be. Let's do this. If I go, because I have my therapy notes over here. Maybe I got rid of that. There we go. All right, so when I was doing therapy, she taught me what she calls the 3 C's. And this might be something that's taught everywhere, but it put a focus on a tool for me to help get out of my head and increase my emotional well-being. So I want to share it with you. The 3 C's were catch it. The first is to catch it. And what that really means is, hey, I'm in my mind right now having a moment where I am not communicating with myself well, where I am thinking I'm going down, it's catching that I'm going down the rabbit trail, that I am falling down in my mind, that we're escalating, is just to catch it. Okay, well, this is happening. Once again, I've never been in AA, but it's to state that you have a problem. You got to catch it. The next C is to check it. And what this really means is to check, is what I'm saying true? Which goes right back to the verse we just discussed. Where is it? Right here. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. Like, check it against those things. I often get in my head and talk really poorly about myself to myself. And it's that conversation that if I was to have out loud to somebody else, so if I was to have the conversation I have to myself to somebody else, if I heard it, I would be I would be getting angry at myself for talking to somebody that way. But yet I do it every minute of the day and act like it's no problem. So what I've had to learn is to catch myself before I go into that tailspin, then to check it. So I'm annoyed that I gained a pound. Okay, well, let's check it. Did I eat well last night? Yeah. Ooh, but I did eat that. Okay. Did I work out yesterday? No. Am I going to work out today? Yes. So you've got to check it against, instead of creating these false narratives in your mind, check it against, by stopping, catching it, checking it. I tend to build myself out of the tailspin of my mind. And then the last is to change it. I then often change my atmosphere. If I am doing something and I am just tail spinning and I then try to go for a walk, or I then will try to drastically change something in the matter to just get my physical and mental shift and change it that way. There's a lot of different ways I think you can change it, but making it simple of just a physical component gets my brain to twitch into a different gear, and I find that that's successful. So catching it, checking it, and then changing it is great. But once again, I'm not a therapist. I just go to therapy. So that's something that you can take from what I've learned in my lessons and take it for what it is worth to you. The other component of it that in the emotional and mental health side of things is the more I read the Bible, the better my confidence, the better my self-esteem is, the better all around I really feel about myself, and that I have the power of God behind me, and that what needs to be done is going to be done. So besides those 3 C's, by reading the Bible more, I think, here's a shocking sentence. If more people focused on Jesus and reading the Bible and learning his ways, I think we would drastically destroy the mental health industry. So those are the 5 key components to the 5 key components to treating your body like the temple God designed it to be. First, our nutrition and diet. Second, our physical training. Third is going to be sleep and rest. The fourth is making sure that we are not abusing any substances. And fifth, and surely not least, checking your mental and emotional health. This is not an overnight change event. This is a journey. I would love to help you along that journey. I've got programs and videos along in this channel. There's programs I have to help in certain aspects of these 5 areas. But ultimately, God is going to help you through this and is going to help us, as long as we, kind of like what we discussed a couple of days ago, as long as we keep focusing on God, his kingdom, anything we do to that is going to treat our body like it is the temple God designed it to be. Yeah. So, yeah. Dear God, thank you so much for giving us the body you gave us, for giving us the life that you gave us. Help us to live the life you want for us. Help us to continue to seek your kingdom first, and let your will be done. Thank you, and in your name, amen. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back tomorrow at 7:30. And if you haven't already, check out one of these 2 videos. They're going to be great for you. And I will see you in the next video. God bless. Finish strong. Have a great day.